It's the end of October 2021. The leaves are changing and falling, colours moving from greens to oranges to browns and steadily falling until they come to settle on the green grass, on which I find myself for a session which will quite simply be determined as improvisation with some just concepts and ideas that were either shared to me by teachers within movement practice or other disciplines as well, and some ideas for myself that I'm exploring. Many of these will pretty much be determined and explored on the go. So whilst I'm practicing in these particular frames, if I find something and I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, I'm just going to work with that, that will be the case. So I won't necessarily be able to completely explain exactly what it is that I'm doing, which comes to the point of that you don't always need to know exactly what it is that you're doing and what the reason is. It's an explorative practice, and part of that is the practice of exploring without necessarily having something concrete to fix yourself upon. With that as well, got a football here. I'm still practicing ball kick-ups and things like this. I have a long stick. I'm just going to keep drilling some patterns. You'll probably see me doing another video of a session. I have a small stick as well. I have some juggling balls. So these are just going to be movement projects, just keeping up with things that I've been doing for a while. I'm basically going to put the camera down here and just go and do my thing, so it may be the case that the view is very far away. I'll try and crop it back in the video, anything like that. The quality might be a bit crappy, but that's just the way that it's going. I just found myself in this football field today, which also opens up some potential to explore just some rolling patterns and things that I've been working on. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Other than that, I did tweak my shoulder a little bit, attempting to tackle someone to the ground very unsuccessfully, and that was about a week and a half ago. Yeah, it's not so bad now, but of course I'm being mindful of this. As well, last night during handstand practice, during some strength practice, being on my hands inverted, just brought up a strange kind of compression thing in the top of my wrist, which is completely gone now, but I'm just aware that that happened yesterday, and it's of course not going to be completely gone. So just keeping these things in mind as I'm practicing. So when I'm doing and starting with a little bit of proofing, these are things that I will be paying attention to as well. So yeah, nothing to it but to do it. exercise my proofing. Oh, half an hour. Yeah, so there's a variety of things at play there. The one rule is do not stop moving. Don't stop moving. It's not random. This is also very, very important. Very, very often, myself included, and I work with people, they're very interested in, just, I want to do the improvisation stuff. I want to do like, I want to just move. All right, well, I mean, what have you got to work with? It quickly becomes very, very frustrating. Of course, under the pretext of proofing, which is what I told myself in the first instance, and had a nice half-hour open space, and I was working on things. Every single moment was working on something. So it began quite practically with a kind of emptying, shaking out. Then I was using certain frames of circles, figure eights, waves to check how the shoulder was feeling, the wrist, and things like this. And then I believe positions of the hips in relation to the feet, and then also just basically walking through space. These leads in, if you then combine it with things like the arms, turning, building momentum, pivoting, things like this. Then I think I even got into some just seeing how my ankles and things were feeling, just something a bit more ballistic, a bit more jumping. That in turn leads with turns, spins, etc., etc. And then finding myself down into the floor and just working on just seeing how my neck and things are feeling with rolling and stuff like this. Then I have some rolling patterns that I'm working on. I'll hit an improvised frame, something quite specific. So the way it's going to work is that I will just give myself an idea and I will move in accordance with whatever this idea is. Okay, so the frame is decided. It's an old one I haven't practiced for a long time. I am beginning in the form of a tree. Very nice, we have these trees behind us. I can use this for inspiration. I begin in a form of a tree, and then I am melting. I am melting. And this will be over the course of 10 minutes. The beginning being in the tree form, and the end being completely melted on the floor. Which is not quite accurate. It is kind of more, I'm on the floor. I'm as low as I can go, but it's not, I'm melting like, oh, I'm burning a piece of wax and it's melting. I am the idea of melting. I'm not the physics of melting. I can melt in any direction. I can melt, if I reach outwards, I can have the texture of, it's not even the texture of melting because that's too physics. It's more like I am the verb to melt. Normally I would do this over a period of 20 minutes, but I'll do it for 10 minutes because I also want to practice something I haven't done with this, which is melting and moving. Yeah, this is the tree to melt. I rid myself of my chewing gum. Don't want to disrespect the context. I got a timer. I set it for 5 minutes. And so I have an indication of like when I'm halfway, so I don't get too carried away and I'm not doing it for like 45 minutes or something. Melting, static, stationary, over 10 minutes. It's very difficult to be melting when you find yourselves yourself in positions in which the nervous system is having a conversation with you. It sort of shakes and things. Melting is to melt is very smooth, consistent. I did consider like drops, like when it suddenly like drops, something like this. But then I felt it was leaning too much towards physics, because I had this image of a candle in my mind, and it was kind of interfering, in all honesty, kind of sticking to an image of a thing, and I didn't really want to be a thing. I just wanted to be melt. But one thing that was nice was this idea of when something melts, it feeds back into something else. Like, for example, like plate tectonics, something melts, it goes underneath the plates, and then it forces something else up. So now, let's do melt and moving through space. There is no prescribed speed or pattern or things like this. You can melt quickly. Someone can vaporize you. Instantaneous. Let's do 10 minutes. I can move through space and I am melt. Man, that was hard. That was really difficult. It's the first time I've done that frame. It was really difficult. Because the idea that when something is melting or melted or is melt, it doesn't necessarily have a structure in terms of an origin from which it melts. Of course, because I have a structure which is a skeleton, and I have a base which is my feet or my hands or whatever I'm using to support myself, it always seems to be melting in my mind around that structure. So I kind of try to think, okay, let's try and take this body, it's just this side that's melting or something, as opposed to everything melting around a central structure. Yeah, you get those moments when you're like, what the fuck am I doing? That's the practice. To try and figure out, what is valuable in this context, what is it giving me, how is it perhaps restricting me, in of course more ways than physiological as well, and especially taking a reasonable space of 10 minutes to explore that, keeping in mind that I have nothing of disciplines which explore the potential for creativity, and towards that ideas such as, or contexts such as improvisation. I came from let's build muscle, that's it. So it's something which is very, very valuable to me. It provides me with a lot of permissions. You're allowed to do that. You can melt if you want, it's fine. Even just with regards to quote unquote being weird, it's not even about that. It's just like, you want to melt, go fucking melt, go for it. So for me, this is like a really big permission, and I value them incredibly. Enough on melting. Next, I will bring in a bit more of a dynamic context. Give me another moment while I figure out what that context is going to be. Just because of the inspiration around, we mentioned it already, I will be a budding spring leaf, and also a falling autumn leaf. I'm not trying to be the leaf. I will be moving, and these ideas will be affecting me in some way and just helping me explore different textures, different trajectories, different qualities of movements. Falling autumn leaf and budding spring leaf. We shall commence. 10 minutes. Turned out very interesting for me. This dichotomy between this budding spring leaf and then a falling autumn leaf. Of course, it's still a leaf. It's very, it has an innate similarity, and yet so different. It's like at the beginning and end of a lifespan. So you have the quality of leaf. What is the quality of leaf, and then what is the quality of leaf at these two ends of lifespan? So for me, this idea of the budding leaf, it was very excited, very proud. And then of course that has a very turgid texture as it moves within the wind. And then so frail at the end of its lifespan, clinging on, and yet knowing it's going to fall, and then that fall, knowing it's going to be its last fall and its only fall. Apart from moments of being perhaps blown along the ground, but by that time it's being blown around, but it's already gone. It's gone. It's just the carcass, the remains of what it once was, a very empty husk. If the question is popping in your mind, but what is all that for? What is it for? Then perhaps this type of practice is not going to be of much value to you at the moment. It simply opens up a space to be able to explore the potentials and limitations, not just in relation to your physical capacities and things, but what is in the connection here? What fictions can you create that affect you? Because we create fictions for everything. You know, a businessman walks in a certain way. Someone who is a professional football player, they hold themselves in a certain way. These are fictions. I am this. I am strong. I am weak. People carry this in themselves. If someone is determined through whatever circumstances of life that they're a weak person, or they're a conservative person, or they're an introvert or something, that comes out in their movement. It comes out in their physicality and everything. So this is powerful. This is something that is, of course, worthy of practice and exploration, because it can bring about completely different states. Next up, I'm going to do one last piece of impro exploration movement research, which is going to be a bit more practical. This idea of relationships between articulations in the body. Articulating, for example, the shoulders, the rotations of the scapula in relation to how the knee and the hips move, how that then transmits through the torso to a different place and kind of what comes out as a result of that. Coordinating certain articulations, reversing them, trying to connect the same articulation of the shoulder with the idea of the same articulation from the hip, and affecting movement and seeing what happens. It's likely it will end up tying in with other things like stepping and turning, because this is something that's been on my mind for a while. But this is going to be the basic idea. So if that makes any sense, then yeah, that's what I'm going to be doing for the next 10 minutes. Yeah. So that was a bit more practical. Yeah, that's very difficult. Am I just expressing a pattern that I normally do, or am I doing some work here? Because it's not just, oh yeah, just move and yeah, do something beautiful. Aesthetics is not my concern here at all. That should be made clear. And you know, looking cool or doing cool moves is also not the work here at all. I mean, normally I would reserve a space at the end with some kind of skill work, whether it's to do with rolls, whether it's to do with some soft acrobatic stuff that, to practice, and that would have its own space. And then when that is something that is, you know, available, then if it comes out in this type of practice, then it comes out. But there's nothing being forced here whatsoever. As for the rest of my practice, in all honesty, I'm just going to do some basic rolling stuff, and I'm going to kick a ball for a bit, and I'm going to swing a stick around. So it's not really that exciting, and I don't blame you if you kind of switch off now. But if you want to watch, feel free. Yeah, so just going to be rolling, man. I am working on specific rolls, most notably diagonal line rolls, diagonal line across the back. If you don't know what that is, it's fine. Diagonal line rolls, forward and backwards, and all I'm going to be doing is start playing with the basically slightly to be more dynamic and jumping into them. One thing that was brought to my attention recently by a friend and teacher is basically the idea of rolling straight into a squat as opposed to a fisherman's squat. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, don't worry about it. Just something extra to learn, isn't it? So yeah, I'm going to be focusing on this idea and also being able to propel myself a little bit more out of the back roll. Just keep in mind that these types of rolls, I've practiced a lot with certain variations of this rolls, but then bringing it back to the world of standing to be able to then reapply the momentum is not something that I've invested a lot of time in. So I'm investing time. And speaking of which, I'm not going to bother with like rep sets or anything like that. I just much prefer to set a timer and just keep going. Just rest when I need to rest, go when I need to go, and then I'll just check the timer now and then to see that I've done a reasonable amount of time. So a reasonable amount of time will be a minimum of 20 minutes, and I'll just limit it to a maximum of half an hour, I guess. And that'll be me. Yeah. Let's roll. Just interrupt my practice to give some ideas of what I'm doing. So everything that I mentioned before, but I have issues with entering certain sides, as everyone does. Dominance, el lado más tonto, always a bit of a stupider side. So I'm exploring that. Also kind of popping out of the back roll. This seems to be coming on okay. It's going a lot better than the previous times I practiced, because the previous times I practiced, one was on concrete the first time. Not always good for your first time. It was polished concrete, so maybe it's better. And the second time was on hard rubber mat. This is the first time on grass. So if you're practicing rolling, choose your surface wisely. And I'm feeling where the improvement areas are to be. A couple of different rolls that I'm using. One is landing with essentially a support hand, a secondary support hand that comes into the elbow and then rolls up the arm. And the other one, actually, which I find nicer, is more of this, I think, kind of parkour type roll, where you one hand support and you go straight in using the edge of the arm as like a carving arc to support yourself and protect yourself as well, to then follow into the diagonal line of the back coming out the other side of the butt cheek. Yeah, that's what I'm exploring. Also then with a little bit of some dynamic movement into it as well. But ultimately, as I said, I want it just to feel like it can come out if I'm just practicing, improvising, researching in an open time space. So I am also just very conservatively playing with like turning, stepping, moving through space, and then it just kind of comes out and continues in movement. And this is the theme that I will continue in for the next 10 minutes as well. I'm at 10 minutes already. I'll take another. I just take 20 minutes today. Easy day. I've got to catch the shop before it closes because I'm going to make a nice prawn curry this evening. Yeah, prawn mango cashew nut curry. Yeah. All right, let's crack on. One thing to note here, because I'm in these earlier learning stages, is that if I just fuck it up, I redo it. It's not an improvised context here. I'm trying to practice a skill, believe it or not. Did I do what I wanted to do? This again is something that an idea we can use behind the term quality. Was there quality there? Did you do what you meant to do? So for example, if I just try and do something, I jump into it and then it just fails, then I'll try it in a controlled scenario. If I then realise, no, actually, if I don't have this, then I'll break it down, come back to the floor, then start from the squat, do it there, and then build it back up again, and then plug it back in and see if it works then, but always keeping it in my mind and mental note that needs work. Yeah, my right side, and it's el lado más tonto, the stupid side, entering with the right. Yeah, by the end my right shoulder back here is hurting a bit more, which tells me it wasn't quite connecting right with the ground. So when I gave it a little bit more attention, I was trying to figure out what am I doing with my good side that is missing from this side. You have two sides, and if just one side isn't getting the pattern, you can study the other side, like throwing a ball. Everyone has a dominant side to throw a ball, so when you try to throw with the other side, use some lessons. What am I doing? How am I rotating my torso? When is the arm? Where is the moment of release, etc, etc, etc. Essentially I just wasn't kind of pushing with my arm into the floor enough. With this arm I seem to be pushing into the floor more rather than just kind of leaving this arm lying dead going in. And then when I was doing that, I did like 5 or 6 rolls and it seemed like it was okay. It's a bit late in the practice to then go and just start feeding that back in, but hey, that happens sometimes. Right at the end of your practice, you make a small discovery and you hope one of two things. Either you remember it for the next practice or that it's somehow embodied a little bit so you'll bring it out next time. So, as I said, all I'm going to do now is just pick up some patterns with the stick. Also, again, if you don't want to see me playing with the stick for 10 minutes, turn off now. So, just some inside info on these stick patterns. First of all, we'll just be working just with some basic transfers of the stick in different directions with the concept of there being an end, a long end, and then also like a tail to the stick as well. Working really a lot with sensitivity of the hands and things like this and feeling the weight of the stick. It then moves into kind of moving sequences, moving around the stick, and then the ability just to bring these combinations out in whatever form. After that, there are some kind of rotational patterns. They have value because there is a direct connection with them, and also just normal figure 8, circle, spiral patterns that I also have been practicing for many years, just with the arms and things like this, and there's direct connection. It's just the arm movement that you're performing, but you've got an object in the hand, but it's the body that's directing it. Hence it starts to become this idea of the stick is the extension of my body. Again, they're not impressive, they're not stylistically cool, it's not this contact body stuff that's supposed to be kind of aesthetic and interesting. It's more specifically about this connection between different types of patterns and how they incorporate ultimately endlessly together. So yeah, let's practice.
Disco, disco, disco.
So, those were the basic sequences. I'm going to put some of these basic patterns together now and just see what comes out, and maybe incorporated with some basic striking movements. Just through going through the sequence of patterns again just makes me realise, like, man, you feel like you've been doing something for a certain amount of time. Oh yeah, I did some of this for like, you know, a year or something like that. You still don't know anything. Yeah, so I know nothing about this. The only thing I can say is that at least I can identify some things that just aren't there. This differentiation between the front hand and the back hand and the roles that they're playing, and I can feel sometimes when it connects. I know that sometimes I'm striking or moving with the stick and not so much my body. I notice when I'm not breathing. All you can do is notice in these contexts. That's the first step to changing anything, is noticing it first of all, but then practice. No substitution for practice. Yeah, just a really quick integration. So I'm going to finish up with just some of these spiral type patterns and things, and for me it's also just some nice prehabilitation for the wrists and elbows and shoulders and things. And as I said, tweak my shoulder a little bit, been very good to me today. The right wrist that I mentioned, haven't felt it at all, so that's a good sign for handstand practice tomorrow. Should be today actually. Anyway, so yeah, I'm just going to crack on with that. I'm just going to be twirling the stick around, so yeah, that's it. So enough of the stick play. Yeah, so I'm now just gonna kick this ball for a little bit. Guess what? I'm gonna record that as well and put it on the end of the video, just to because it's practice, and there's no hierarchy of practice. No one practice is better than another. It's just whether it gives you more or less. And in all honesty, this kicking up of the ball is something that gives me a lot, because it ain't me. I'm not the guy who plays football and juggles the ball on the feet, and yet it's something very fundamental. But what I am going to do is I'm going to do it back to back with juggling. So I'm currently trying to ease my way into 4-ball juggling. I can do it for a few rounds, but it's not consistent. So juggling with the hands, juggling with the feet, a very simple, it's a combination that makes sense. If you're practicing movement projects, this is a nice way to do it. So for example, if you're practicing a manipulation with the hands, balancing sticks on the hand or something like this, then also you can superset it back to back doing it with the feet. If you're balancing a ball on your head, which is a task I give many times, and doing certain tasks related to that, then that's one distal end of the chain. The other distal end of the chain is going to be the feet as well, so try popping it on the feet and doing it with that. Yeah, so it can be kind of similar types of context, or it can be the same context. For example, you have the same task, you're touching your back of the head to the ground from standing or something, but the ball is being held in a different part of the body. There's also a way that you can work it. So yeah, I'm going to film myself kicking a ball. So this is what it comes down to. Me, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 balls, and the last of the waning sunlight. So I'll just do half an hour or so. And what I'll do is I set my gym boss, again, my timer, for 5 minutes. And then I'll do like at least, maybe I'll do 4 rounds each, so maybe 40 minutes. I'll do Every time the timer goes, I'll switch to the other task. I'll do that task for another 5 minutes. Timer goes again, I'll go back to the other task. And I'll work for, just rounds. And that's how I'm going to structure it. That's how I always structure it. Well, not always. Sometimes I just set a timer and just go for like, okay, do half an hour or even an hour, just on the one thing. But that's what I'm going to do today. These two back to back. Nothing more, certainly nothing less. One thing I will say, and this is nothing to do with like, yeah, cool because you've got dirt on your feet. No, but if you look at your body, if you look at the skin which is exposed to the world around you, I find it is a very good indicator of how much you've been moving, quite simply. And the reason I say this is because when I used to train exclusively in like a gym environment inside, controlled environment, I never ever had these things. The only evidence you would have is the calluses on your hands. That's it. Maybe you might pinch a finger between some weights or something like that. And it's a surefire sign that you ain't moving very much. Because when you move, you get abrasions from the world around you. You interact with things. You have relationships with more stuff. You have more experiences. You're affected more physiologically. What I found, and especially when I started exploring the environment a little bit more, like climbing and jumping and just kind of these basic things that I neglected, then it really started to show. I mean, my shins, man, like, I carry the scars to today. And it's not like, oh, I'm cool, I got scars on my legs because I play so much, because I'm such a mover. It's nothing to do with that. It's just an observation, and I feel like it's quite nice to reflect upon. If you are not carrying any abrasions or scars or things from your experiences, then perhaps you haven't had many experiences, and that's a place that you can invest in. Just a small perspective. Right, no excuses now. Now you can just see that I'm terrible. Last excuse, these shoes are new, they haven't been worn in yet, they haven't been broken in, so keep that in mind. Sometimes, man, that timer goes and you're just like, thank God. Like, this is where it should come to. I'll talk about this briefly. The idea that you should always enjoy your practice. Maybe I've said this before. Yeah, it's like, this is I don't want to sound like a dick about it, but this is like a low level, intention to have, or a feeling to have to practice. It's a relationship with the practice. It's like saying that if you have a partner, you only enjoy it if you're having fun. And when you're not having fun, you're just like, oh no, don't do that anymore. I'm not going to be in a relationship. I'm going to go off with this other person. It's not a very good relationship, right? You have to work at it. You have to practice it. It's not always good. Of course, you shouldn't hate it. If you hate it, then you need to consider if perhaps a movement practice is even for you, because this ability to have a relationship with any movement context and try to appreciate it from a perspective of movement. Of course, if it's like a movement thing that just doesn't really contribute to develop your understanding of the general subject, or it just like beats the shit out of you and you don't learn anything from it that you think is valuable, then that's something different. But I mean, kicking a ball is such a fundamental thing, and so I don't enjoy it. I never have enjoyed it. There's sparks where I'm kind of like, oh, I think I'm getting somewhere, and then they're gone very, very quickly. Which comes to the point that I just wanted to say, I'm not counting. I used to count before, and it just drives you insane. I don't count. I just go for time. And that's it. And as a benchmark, I would like to be able to go for like 2 minutes. hit like a minute and a half, 2 minutes remains very elusive. Yeah, on to juggling, which I also hate. As a beginner, I like to start with 3 balls. I move around a little bit, and I just make sure I get in at least 2 minutes continuous juggling with 3 balls before I allow myself to move on to practice with the one hand and then working with the 4 balls. For those who know stuff about juggling, which I don't, I'm working just the internal circle patterns, the easy ones. I cannot be bothered with the other stuff at the moment until I kind of have like a basis on which to found this stuff on. And I'm getting more than enough from doing these inside easy circles. So that's where I'm at. Okay, so yeah, unfortunately the daylight seems to have betrayed me, so I decided to call it quits with the juggling. It's not an excuse. I will continue it at home, and I won't record my home. So just a few words with today's session. Normally I would do a handstand practice and give a class, but I cancelled my class because of, I said, my wrist and my shoulder was feeling a bit funny. I also had a class earlier today that I was supposed to go to, a bit more dynamic kind of grappling, so I called that quits as well. So I just thought, okay, sun is out, not anymore, take it to the park and yeah, work with some impro things as well and use that as a context to see how the shoulder and the wrist are feeling, and as I've found, it's pretty good, it's holding up, just have to be wary in some dynamic things. This is also incorporating the perspective of just being able to be a bit flexible with your practice. Shit happens if you're moving a lot, as I mentioned previously with like scrapes and things on your body. Sometimes it can be more serious, and it's important that then you have alternatives in your mind. Okay, no, that's an opportunity, that's not working now, then I'll go and do this. This is why investing in a more lateral movement practice can be very, very beneficial from the perspective of just physical practice. There is an infinite amount of things to explore, and if something isn't working optimally, you can find a context in which it's not required to optimally work, that you can still practice. If you break your foot, you can still juggle a ball. If you break your wrist, you can still kick a ball. So yeah, it was quite nice to come down to the park today. I'm getting cold, toes are still numb, my ass is starting to get frozen from sitting on the floor. We're coming into November now, and I'm still keeping practice outside as much as possible. It will be through the winter as well. So if I do get around to filming another one of these, but I kind of think I've had enough now, I think that's enough exposure to just aspects of my practice, yeah, then it'll be in another time, another place. Hope you're all moving well, practice well, and until the next time. I'm sorry, I had to, started making the curry, innit? Curry's looking great, so here's what we got. This is our mango, everything's chopped, pre-prepared. We've got a nice mix here with garlic and also the ginger and the lemongrass all mashed in there. Some nice red onions, we've got some sugar snap peas, we got some organic prawns, some more prawns, got a bag of bean sprouts, we got coconut oil, we got coconut milk, and we've got nice Thai green curry paste to go in there as well. So yeah, that's dinner after practice. That's how you cook rice like an islander. None of this draining your water out. Should be done perfectly. And now, I'll just leave that there. Steam a little bit. And we're ready to eat curry. And that's the end of the day. Tomorrow we start again.